And Scotland has a long history of linguistic and cultural oppression, which is ongoing. The BBC is a great example. But the fact that people are deprived of their own language, I'm rediscovering Scots as I get older because it was driven out of me in primary school. We go into schools as Scots bairns with a Scots tongue in our head, and it's driven out of us. We're made into Anglophones. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And does it change our identity? And of course it does. And that's what it's designed to do. So imperialism, whether it's cultural, linguistic, or any other form, is a form of oppression, as is colonialism, exploitation, political, and all the rest of it. So there's a whole range of things there which reflect the fact that Scotland, constitutionally we might say we're not a colony, but that's kind of immaterial in regard to how you've been treated for 300 years. Who makes the big decisions for Scotland? It's nobody in Scotland. It's somebody out with Scotland. So all the key institutions and key organisations and the key policy decisions are not made by Scotland. There are two forms of racism affecting the Scots, and this goes back to the colonial mindset. And in post-colonial literature, the colonial mindset is a well-established aspect of colonialism. The native people are told that they're inferior. Yep. They're informed that their culture is inferior, their language is invalid. And if their language is invalid, the people become invalid. You then recruit a meritocracy that reflects the superior culture, if you like, which is Anglophone in our case. So this colonial mindset leads to that, what we call the cringe, but it's what I found it's defined in the science as internalized racism, which is also known as appropriated racial oppression, where an oppressed people regard their oppression as deserved. Now, this is well established with minorities around the world who are marginalized, put to the side. Their language is marginalized, their culture, everything about them. So when we talk about a colonial mindset, we're into the realms of some really interesting science, which, if you look at some of the post-colonial literature coming out of the African colonization and independence movements, you find that basically colonialism is regarded as a disease of the mind, more than anything. It's also about political and economic exploitation, but it's also a disease of the mind, which the colonized people have to cast out. But first of all, they have to understand what their oppression's about. If we're making a case for our freedom and our independence, we should really know what it's about. And fundamentally, it's about decolonization, which what the UN call independence. That's why they have a committee called the Decolonization Committee. So the forms of racism that affect colonized people, one is internalized racism. The other factor here is that colonialism itself is racism. It's about making a culture and a language and a people inferior. And it's about putting in place a meritocracy that reflects the culture of the superior. And that's the root of our inequality.